Hi, welcome in. My name is Ro. I'm a project manager, content creator, and healthy productivity fanatic. I've been using ToDoIst for the past 10 years, and it got me through my studies and my first years of working as a project manager in a corporate IT company. However, I recently switched to Notion. I tried to do that 2 years ago, and I immediately went back to ToDoIst, but this time I stuck through it for the past couple of months to test it out for you guys and see what the differences between the two tools are, which one you should be using, and when you should be using those. And I'm going to set it apart in today's video, and then I'm also going to showcase how I use Notion to sometimes work around the things that I was missing from ToDoIst, but also how I use the additional features in Notion to actually empower my task management even better than I did before. But also I would like to give you an advice all the way at the end of the video, so make sure to stick around which to-do list app you should be using to manage your tasks. So let's dive right into it. Without any further ado, I'm going to start with the differences between Notion and ToDoIst that I have found in using it for the past couple of months. So one thing I noticed is that ToDoIst actually has a really strong reoccurring task system, and Notion simply does not have that. In Notion, you can actually create reoccurring tasks. However, this works through a database feature where you can make a template that then kind of recreates itself at a time and date that you set for it. However, this is absolutely not suited for tasks that have a irregular recurring pattern. So let's say every 3 months. And this personally is something that I used to love in ToDoIst, is that I could kind of set reminders explicitly for things that only happened every other week or every 3 months, because those are the things that I tend to forget. The things that come back on a weekly basis are usually the things that I can remember and are also things that are in my calendar, but specifically those tasks where I felt like I need some help to remember these, that was where the recurring task system from ToDoIst, which was just simply much stronger than Notion. The second one is that in Notion, you can actually link up your tasks to other databases, which obviously in ToDoIst, you cannot do that for the simple reason that ToDoIst is not in your Notion space. So being able to link it to maybe notes or resources that you found, maybe link it to your content calendar like I do as a content creator, all of these things are incredibly helpful, and it's simply a feature that I was missing in ToDoIst because I had my entire productivity system in Notion, and then my to-dos all of a sudden were in a different app. However, this is only valuable if Notion is already an integral part of your productivity system. If you actually have your note-taking elsewhere, or if you save your resources in a different way, or you're not a content creator like I am, then maybe the value of being able to add your Notion databases to your task management system is not that big. Another difference is that ToDoIst is extremely user-friendly and super easy to onboard. You can literally download the app and just get going within minutes, and Notion is not really like this. I think we all know that Notion can be extremely overwhelming to start using it in the beginning, and even if you know all the nitty-gritty details, it is still quite a lot of work to manage it. It can do a lot more than ToDoIst, but it also needs a lot more work to maintain it correctly. On the other hand, the win that you get from this is that Notion is extremely customizable in terms of what kind of properties you would like to register for all of your to-dos. You can very easily make millions of labels and things that you want to make sure that your tasks get. It is easy to make subtasks, it's easy to link them to projects. However, this is less easy to do in ToDoIst for the simple reason that the tool is made to be extremely simple to use and made to be user-friendly. However, that does restrict you in customizability. So if you are looking for something that you can truly customize and make your own, then Notion might be the better option of the two. Something else that is a huge plus for Notion is that almost all of the features that I just mentioned for task management, including all the customizability, is completely free. Whereas if you want to use the full power of ToDoIst, you actually have to be a paid user. For instance, being able to add subtasks, make unlimited labels, all of those things in ToDoIst are paid features, whereas in Notion, all of those things are free. So if you want to get started with a productivity system and you don't have much money to spare for it, then maybe Notion might be the better option for you. Another difference is that ToDoIst is extremely strong in helping you manage tasks that are overdue. They will literally show up on top of your page rather than hidden somewhere, whereas in Notion, if you don't have a separate overview for it, your task can just get lost forever. Another very important difference for me is that ToDoIst has a fantastic mobile app, and I think we can all agree that Notion, especially on your mobile phone, kind of sucks. I had to make a whole separate dashboard for my task view to even have it remotely look good, and it is still not as intuitive as ToDoIst, whereas ToDoIst, it was super easy for me to manage my tasks tasks on the go. And with Notion, I am definitely paying the price of the usability and the ease of use in terms of being able to do things on the go, because Notion on your phone is just not that great. A plus for Notion, on the other hand, is that in Notion, you can actually view your tasks in a calendar view, whereas ToDoIst did announce this right before I am making this video. So from this moment on, actually, ToDoIst will also have a calendar feature in it. However, I am not aware if that's a paid feature or something that comes for free. So I did see they announced it, so maybe they're trying to catch up on Notion. However, in sense of different views and customizability of how you see the database that contains all of your tasks, I do think that Notion is still far more customizable than ToDoIst is right now. And then obviously they're not just different, there are also just some things that you can do very well in both systems. And the most obvious one is managing your tasks. I think both systems are well equipped with the things that you need to stay on top of your tasks, with the basic things like due dates, labels, being able to have a today overview, being able to filter your tasks. All of those things are in both systems, and in both systems they work fine. Also, something that they both offer is subtasks and templates for subtasks. So kind of being able to very easily have a task repeat with a certain subset of tasks always linked to it, being able to make different templates. I do think in Notion it is a little bit more customizable what you can add to a template, and also subtasks in ToDoIst are, to be honest, one of the less intuitive features, because once you have a task that repeats with subtasks, it's kind of the subtasks stay ticked off, which is not ideal. So definitely they both have some things here that are not perfected yet, but they both offer templates and subtasks. They also both, like I mentioned, let you sort and label and filter your task, which makes it really easy to figure out if you're managing tasks for different life areas, let's say your personal life and your career, to kind of keep them separated. And also both of them allow you to give priority to tasks, making it easy for you to decide what you need to start your day with and what is less prioritized on that specific day. And lastly, they do both offer different views, like a list view, a week view, a day view, and also having a like a Kanban board view that was added to ToDoIst, I think about 1 or 2 years ago. And that's the view that I use the most in Notion as well. They both offer a variety of views for you to be able to keep on track with your tasks. Okay, so now that I've explained the differences and the similarities between ToDoIst and Notion, I want to show you guys my task setup in Notion. I will explain the workarounds that I've implemented to get some of the features I was missing from ToDoIst back in Notion. And also I'll just show you my general workflow for keeping up with my tasks and what my personal added value is of using it in Notion. And I also think that I will stick with Notion for the foreseeable future, because this added value is big enough for me to kind of overcome the hurdles that come with Notion and managing your tasks in Notion. I will show you all of the databases that I use, all of the views that I have, and kind of walk you through all of the things that I've done. For those of you who have missed my yearly goals video, I'll make sure to link it up top and down in the cards below. But I explained the vision behind how I manage my tasks and my project in general. So a very, very quick recap of that is that I have my yearly goals, and my yearly goals will actually be done, or like actually I hope to reach my yearly goals by completing projects and tasks. In my original video, I also explained the sublayer of milestones. However, I don't want to go too much into depth on that one right now, because that's not really part of my task system. But if you're interested in my entire setup, feel free to watch that goals video, because there I'll walk you through it step by step. However, to manage my task, there are two main databases that are fueling this concept of task management in Notion. That is my projects, and projects I see as a bundle of tasks that have a clear start and a clear end date, and they are unique. So it is something that is not repetitive. It is something that I can say I will do for a set period of time, and I will reach a specific result with that one. And then I have just my general task database, and tasks can actually linked to project. So as you can see, I have a couple of ongoing projects right now. They are also on my home dashboard, because I want to be able to quickly click these and see them. And then my task one is also shown in different views on my home dashboard. I have my today view, my this week view, and my incoming view. And I will explain how I manage all of this in a little bit. But first, I just quickly want to show you the main task database, so you can kind of get an idea of all of the properties that I register in my task database in Notion. So first and foremost, we have the status. The status is very simple. It can be incoming. This basically means that I have not scheduled it yet. It doesn't have a due date or something. And also due date, when I say that, I don't mean a date when it has to be finished, but I mean a date where I'm actually gonna do it. And I know that it is like named due date, as in when it's due, that's usually because I tend to do things on the date that they're due, because a lot of my work is not really centered towards big deadlines, but more of like when I plan to do them, that is the date that you do them, but it's also the due date. I hope this is making sense because the wording is a little bit confusing here. But incoming basically means that I have not assigned a date to when I'm going to actually do the task. To do basically means I have assigned a date and I have scheduled to do it at one point, so then I change it to do, and then in my daily overview on the day that is assigned to it, it will show up in the to-do column. Doing basically means that I am currently working on it. This is specifically important for tasks when I'm doing my project management work, because sometimes I send out an email in the morning and I expect a response or a follow-up in the same day, and then I just move it to doing, so the task isn't really done, but it's also not something that I can actively pick up or work on right now. This is also a really nice one if something moves across multiple days, because in some cases I actually have tasks that take me a whole week and then they can just sit there in doing, and I know that I'm constantly working on them. And then obviously we have done, which just means that the task is done and I no longer need it. Then I have my task name, which is just a short description or simply a name of the task. It's kind of straightforward. Then, like I mentioned, I have the due date, which is the date where I want to do something. And I actually was thinking the other day that I might want to experiment with a feature in Notion that you can also add an end date, that I might want to change the name of this to an actual due date, so the date where I need to do it, and also give it an end date if there is a hard deadline to a task. If I need to hand it in before a certain day, or if I need to send it out before a certain moment, that I use the end time as the actual due date, like the date where it needs to be done. This is so confusing. Why is English so hard in this? But I think that might be something that I want to experiment on, because you can actually filter on the separation between start dates and end dates in Notion. And then you only have to use one date field where you can basically register your doing date. Maybe I should call it doing date. Your doing date and your due date. Then I have my priority, which is non-negotiable, but which basically means it's an appointment, so I don't have control over when I do it. Urgent basically means that it has the highest priority right next to all of the non-negotiable meetings. Then important is I would like to have it done this day. However, it is just important to mostly finish it this week. And then can be moved is just I'm doing this to fill time. However, if I don't have time for it, that's also completely fine. As you can see, this is kind of an empty column because I've never really been good at putting priorities to my tasks. So this is something that I set out to be better at in 2024, is get better at understanding my prioritizations during the day. And then I have my life area, which is something that I explained in my goals video as well, but my life is kind of split up in different containers. I have content creation, my career, my wellness, my relationships, my finances, and I also assign my tasks to those life areas, which again allows me to filter on them. And this is something that I tried to do in ToDoIst, but it never worked as well as it does in Notion, because I have all of my other things like my resources and my notes and my spendings and all of those things are also split up in these same areas. So it really allows me to kind of see across the border how a certain container or like a slice of my life is doing, if that makes any sense. Then I have the type of work, which basically entails what kind of task it is, because this allows me to keep a balanced day. So for instance, I have appointments. If I only have appointments in a day, that's usually not a great day for me and my brain. I really do enjoy admin work. I like to sit behind my PC and like just work on stuff, write things, send out emails, update plannings. I guess I'm a project manager for a reason, so I do enjoy my admin tasks, usually also because I can do them with a cup of coffee in my pajamas, which is always nice. Then I have creative work, which is basically anything that has to do with creative activities, so editing, recording like I'm doing now, writing scripts, all of those things I see as creative work because it requires me to be in a specific state of mind to be able to do this well. And then I have my chores, that's just basically going to get groceries, cleaning, all of those things. Then as you can see, I have a column that is called projects, and the projects column is the one where I can link it to my projects database, so that whenever I open a project card, you can actually see all of the things that are like all of the tasks that are linked to it. And here comes the big chunk where it actually links up to a bunch of my other databases. I can link it to a trip. So if I'm actually taking a trip abroad, then I can actually link tasks specifically to that trip. They will show up on the card of the trip so that I can easily see what all I need to do to actually be able to ready to go on that trip. And also that way, all my preparations for going away will actually show up on my task board as well. Then I have my events, kind of the same story as with trips. If I am hosting a big event or attending a big event, or there is an event happening that requires me to do something, I can actually add tasks to that event. I have a big event upcoming where I'm joining a big builders competition for The Sims. So as you can see, there's a bunch of tasks that I need to fulfill that are all linked to this event. Then I have a time of creation. This is mostly just because I try to give every card the creation time in Notion, because you never know when you want to filter on something. Then I have my content overview. So this is where I can link back to my entire content database. And actually, as you can see, there is a task here that is linked to ToDoIst versus Notion. That is the task that I'm doing right now. That is recording this video or scripting this video. And that way I can also see whenever I click through on my content database, I can see all of the tasks that are linked to completing a certain video. Then I have my goals for 2024. So hopefully most of my tasks this year will actually contribute to reaching all of my goals. So I try to be quite consistent in actually linking my goals to tasks. However, there is an exception if a project contains a whole bunch of subtasks. So for instance, the project of the Builders season, or like the Builders game season 5, because all of those tasks are already bundled in a project and the project itself is linked to the goal, I'm not going to separately link every single task to the goal as well, because whenever I go to my goals page, you'll be able to see the project as a whole linked to that goal rather than having all of the subtasks, because that wouldn't be of a big added value. And that would be one of those situations where you're registering more than it's bringing you benefit. And then I have my notes. So my entire note-taking system is also linked over here. So for instance, if I have a meeting, then I can actually immediately write the notes in the meeting task, like actually open the task and then write the notes and link them immediately to my notes database. That way, all things continue to stay sorted in the right places in my Notion, where I still can do it from the same page as I was doing the task and doing my task management. This just is something of quick access. It makes it easy for me to stay consistent with my note taking. And then I have my resources database, which is a very new addition to my entire Notion setup. So if you have watched my full 2023 Notion tour, you've already seen that my entire home dashboard has changed since. I will also do an updated version of my Notion tour when I feel comfortable that it's no longer going to change for this year. But I have changed my notes and knowledge hub into a notes and resources hub, and I've completely overthrown the kind of resources I register there. So they're currently not really linked to any tasks, but I hope that throughout 2024, more and more resources will get linked to tasks. So that means that for instance, if I'm researching a video, I can actually link all the resources that I've found in research of that video, and I can also link them to the content database. That way I get the most of all of my databases because they're all intertwined, and it's easy for me to kind of use my task management as a starting point for managing all of the other things I have in Notion. And then, like I promised, I would show you my home dashboard, because basically these databases that are over here, the resources, the notes, the goals, the milestones, the projects, and the tasks, they're all intertwined, but I almost never really use the database view of anything. I kind of use the overviews that I've built myself. So there is a today view, which contains everything that is going to happen today across all of my databases. So you can see that I have my content, you can see that I have my events, my trips, my live music, basically anything that is happening or ongoing today will show up here, including my task board, which is a Kanban view of my task database that is filtered by showing the due date for today. And then I have all of my tasks in here, and I can kind of just move them across the board as I'm working on things. I have made a custom view. Like I said, Notion is not too fantastic in managing your overdue tasks. So I actually had to make a custom view where the filter is that the due date is actually before today and the status is not done yet. And as you can see, there is one task that I should have done, which I did not finish. So usually what I do then is I look at that and I will realize, oh, you know what? I'm going to do that today or at a later point in time. And I just have to consciously check the overdue board, which if I were to use ToDoIst, it would be right in my face and the system would be thinking for me. Where here, I have to remember to check if I have any overdue tasks, which is obviously a risk if you're a person that tends to forget your tasks. Then I also have my week view, which is basically a calendar view of my to-do list or my task database. And it contains all of the tasks that I do. As you can see, it is quite a long list because some days I'm very, very busy, but usually throughout the week, I get a little bit quieter because my Mondays and my Tuesdays are usually very, very, very busy days. And I also have the same view for my content. So this is all of the content and all of the things that are airing this week or that are going live and that I'm sharing. And in my task database, I have the weekly view, and I can also just navigate to the next week. As you can see, I haven't really scheduled my things for next week because I tend to do that on Sunday mornings during my weekly reviews. I schedule any tasks that are upcoming, and that that is something where the recurring tasks really come into play because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Notion is not really good at recurring tasks. I have a bunch of tasks that set up that recur on a standard pattern, and they are all over here. So like I said, you have to make a template, and then when you have clicked on it, you can actually select repeat, and then you can adjust every day, every week, every month, every year, or off. However, that doesn't really work for any tasks that don't occur on the same day or on the same moment every week or every month, or maybe they're bi-weekly, which immediately breaks this feature. So I'm sincerely hoping for a better recurring task feature in Notion because I need it and we all need it. Please, Notion, give us a better recurring task feature. However, for some things, like things that recur every month on the 20th of the month, I did set up a recurring tasks. So they are all over here and they will show up. They will create itself on the, like basically at 12 a.m. on the day itself, the task will magically create itself and then show up in this database. Something that I also don't like about this feature is that I like to be able to look ahead and see how busy my week is going to be. And I have some tasks that are reoccurring every single week on the same day, on the same time, and that I still did not schedule through this system because whenever I'm doing my weekly review and I'm looking at my week ahead, I want to be able to already see all of those tasks and I want to know how busy I am. And if they only appear in my database on the morning of the day itself, I will still have that feeling of overwhelm in the morning when I look at my list and I'll be like, oh shit, there were 5 recurring tasks that I didn't see in my weekly review and now all of a sudden they're here. So I've decided to figure out my own workaround for this. I'm going to show you guys how that works. So I have a little pop-up here which says schedule weekly recurring tasks. This is a button and I will show you what is behind the button in a little bit. And it also, the little toggle also contains a overview of the same database, so the task database, which is called tasks to schedule. And basically this is that the time that they are created was today, because if I press this button, a bunch of cards will get created. The due date is empty and the status is to do. And I have set up the button in a way that it will create a bunch of cards with the correct names in the correct databases with the correct labels. And they will all have an empty due date and a status of to do. And then with these 3 filters in place, I will actually get a huge list of cards that I can then drag to the right date. So I'll show you. If I edit the button, you can see that this is a long list. So this is what I was trying to say earlier in this video about how you have to kind of set up the system if you want to use Notion as your task management system. So as you can see, when I click this button, I want there to be a page added to my task database, which uses huishouden woensdag, which basically means house chores for Wednesday. That's the template because the template has the subtasks in it. I want this to be the name. I want the type of task to be chores. The life area is financial because a bunch of these chores is that I actually do my finances and stuff. And then the status is to do. And I will show you, like I showed you the whole list. I will show you what happens when I click on this button. I will click and bam, there are all of the tasks. These are all of my weekly recurring tasks. And then I can just drag them to the right date. So I can say, okay, so the chores for the weekend need to happen there. My check-in with Sophie always happens on Monday. My management meeting with Unium always happens there. As you can see, this is like how I schedule my week every single week. On Sunday during my weekly review, I actually grab all of these tasks and I drag them to the right day. This is obviously a huge workaround for a feature that I just miss in Notion. I simply miss being able to just have a good recurring task system. And this was one of the things that prevented me from using Notion as my task management system for the longest of times. Until I had brained out a good workaround that works for me, this was so deal breaking that I could not use Notion as my task management system. However, because I did find workaround that works for me and I have such a dedicated moment each week to sit down and prep my week, this works, but it's not the best system. Something else that I have, like I said, my incoming tasks. So I actually have a lot of tasks that are living in my brain where I feel like, oh, you know what? For this project, for this thing, I need to do X, Y, and Z at some point. And this is where the category incoming is for. I have split it up in my different life areas. So for instance, my career usually doesn't have too many incoming tasks because as a project manager, most of my things are scheduled and they do have a deadline. So they will actually actually have a due date and stuff to them. However, my content creation, because it's such a creative process and it's my own business, I am the person that decides when I do things, but a lot of the things are just whenever I have time for them. I can decide whenever I want to record a video. I can decide whenever I want to post that video. So I have a lot of control over my work, meaning that a lot of my work is actually just incoming until I schedule it. So as you can see, the list for my content creation of incoming tasks is quite big. That's also because I'm running multiple big projects right now for my content creation. Like for instance, redecorating this entire room and like remodeling my studio, so to say. There's a lot of tasks that don't have a deadline. I can do that throughout the entire year, and they are all in here until I pick a weekend where I actually want to do this, and then I start scheduling the tasks. And then, like I said, a lot of things are linked to a project, which is kind of like a big bulk or bucket of things that are related to each other. I will show you the studio remodel project because I just mentioned it. Every project is just a very simple page that is linked to a goal. It shows my life area. It shows the notes that I have added potentially to this project, and it has a Kanban board of its own that is filtered to show any tasks linked to this project. So as you can see, I want to remodel this studio, or I want to change this room around, and that means that I have a bunch of things that I need to do for that. And the first step I actually added in to do, that was the task that was overdue earlier. I'm gonna work on this today. I'm gonna create my vision board and kind of like finalize the vision for this room, and then I can start doing all of the other things which are all incoming. So this kind of allows a more clean view of all of the things that are related to my studio remodel, which allows me to, whenever I want to kind of clutter-free think about this project and I want to just think about, okay, I'm just focusing on the studio remodel. What are the things that I need to do? What are the tasks that I need to pick up for that? Then I can just click here and it gives me a very clean space. As you can see, there's no distraction of any other tasks. There's no distraction of nothing. It's just this project and the tasks that belong to it. So now that I've talked you through the differences, the similarities, and my entire Notion setup for managing my tasks, what are the most important conclusions or takeaways that you should take from this video? One, there is no bad choice or like a wrong choice. I think the most important thing is that you figure out what type of to-doer you are and how the rest of your productivity system looks like to be able to decide which one works best for you. Another one is that with Notion, you compromise on usability, but you win on customizability, and vice versa. With Todoist, you win on usability and you lose on customizability. I think those are the two keywords that describe the two different tools the best. What are my recommendations? Because I promised at the end of this video, I would give you some advice on what apps you should be using to manage your to-dos. And I kind of tried to split it up into two different to-do taking personalities or archetypes that hopefully give you some direction on how you should manage your tasks. The first one is the grocery list personality. And that's a little bit of a silly name, but it basically entails what it is. You want a to-do list app that is a little bit better than your current grocery list, because that's just a piece of paper that is lost somewhere in your jacket. But you also don't want a full productivity ecosystem. You want to be able to write down what you should get for your groceries and when you're going to do your groceries, and that's enough. If you're the groceries list person, please use Todoist. That is simply the best app for you. It offers you everything that you need in terms of prioritizing your tasks, labeling your tasks, having different views, and still being very usable, and also literally fitting in your pocket, exactly like the grocery list. And the second archetype is the productivity freak, which is basically a person who wants to build an entire productivity system or ecosystem. In this case, I would highly recommend using Notion because you can use it for far more than just your task management. And also, when you are really into productivity and when you understand like system and database thinking, I personally get a lot of joy of figuring out these systems and setting up my Notion in a way that it works for me and that it's very customized and tailored. So this is also something like a process that I enjoy to do. And if you are the productivity freak, please use Notion because it is one of the better systems in terms of linking up so many different spaces in your life and having the endless possibilities with all the customizations that it brings. And then I guess if you're going to go for Todoist, you are going to feel the limitations of the tool very, very quickly. So let me know in the comments down below which is your personal favorite and which one you will be using for the foreseeable future. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to drop into the comments as well. If you like this video, please toss it a cheeky like because it does really help the video get to more people. I can recommend watching any of these videos if you want to know more about productivity, how I make to-do lists, and all of the good stuff on my channel. And if you like those and you like this video, consider subscribing because you might like all of my other videos in the future as well. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching and I will see you on the next one. Bye everyone!